Do we have Ms. Marcus as well here? Yes, I can see her.
I'm here. We're all here. I'm here. Hi, good morning, all.
Okay, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the virtual meeting of Brampton's Committee of Adjustment. My name is Ron Chatta, Committee Chair for today's meeting. The Committee of Adjustment is composed of 5 citizen members who are appointed by Brampton City Council. The committee is authorized by the Ontario Planning Act to consider applications for the minor variances from the provisions of City of Brampton zoning bylaw. The committee also consider applications for consent, sometimes referred to as land division applications, for which includes severing a new lot from an existing lot, a lot addition, easements, mortgages, or leases in excess of 21 years. This meeting will be held through a remote electronic participations in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended by Bill 187. The Municipal Emergency Act 2020 and an order in council from March 2020, which amend the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and prohibits organized public events of more than 10 people. City Council has authorized virtual meetings of its committees with all members participating remotely to facilitate the continuation of city business during the current pandemic. We will begin the meeting with the city clerks calling the roll for attendance at today's meeting.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll call the roll. Chair Chatta is here. Member Dorfler?
Right, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Marquez?
I'm here, thank you.
Member Culp?
I'm here, thank you.
Member Power? Member Power?
Mr. Power, you're mute. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm here, thank you. Sorry about that.
Mr. Chair, all members are present.
Thank you. If I can ask the members if they can mute their microphone if they are not speaking, they'll help. All members present as Mr. Clerk conduct the roll call. As we all continue to cope with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the Committee of Adjustment will proceed by conducting virtual meetings to support physical distancing and comply with the public gathering restrictions while ensuring the businesses of the municipality can continue. In-person attendance at this meeting is severely restricted. Members and most staff are participating electronically in this meeting. The public can still access and participate in the meeting by a few measures. The one is watching this meeting remotely through the city's live stream and playback of the archived video stream after today's meeting has concluded. Second, prior to the start of the meeting, pre-registering with the city clerk's office to speak as a delegation before the committee during this virtual meeting to share your comments and provide your input on a specific agenda item on today's meeting agenda. And the third is prior to start of today's meeting, sending written audio or video submission to city clerk's office to be provided to the committee for consideration during the virtual meeting as your input on a specific agenda item. A final reminder for members of committee before we start is to consider today's agenda business. Please ensure your video is off and microphone is muted, as I already suggest, until you are assigned the floor. Then you can turn both when you speak This will help ensure only one person is speaking at one time and minimize other background disruption during the meeting. Before we consider today's application, the committee has some procedural matter to take care of. The first is the adoptions of the minute of the previous meeting are presented in today's agenda. Committee members, any question, comment, concern regarding the meeting held on July 7, 2020? Seems none.
None.
May I have a mover and seconder for adoption of the minute? Moved by Mr. Cope, seconded by Ms. Marcus. All in favor? Okay, this is approved, carried unanimously. The next item we have is declaration of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? I have one, application A19198, as I said it in the past. And anybody else?
Through the chair, if I can just get your reason for declaring the conflict.
Extended family ties with the applicant.
Thank you.
The next item we have, now we move on to withdrawals and deferrals. We do have some. We have received the letter dated July 7, 2020 from, this is from Helen Vastis, authorized agent for the applicant advising the withdrawal of application B19019 in the name of Cauldron Gas Bars Limited for the property located at 9980 Mississauga Road. So they are requesting the withdrawal. We don't need any motion for the withdrawal. The next we have a letter dated July 13, 2020 from Mr. Mazhar Raza, authorized agent for the applicant advising of the withdrawal of application A2020-013 in the name of Karan Gurnesh and Rajinder Hoti for the property located at 1 Ricks Drive. So they have also request a withdrawal. I guess that is committee may aware. There's the bylaw, the parking bylaw does not applicable as the council lift that one parking requirement. So that's why I assume they are seeking a withdrawal, so which is okay. The next item we have is we have a written request for a deferral of application A19099 for the property at 62 Progress Code from Maurizio Rogato Blackthorn Development Corporation, authorized agent for the application. So now we need to Mr. Clerk, if we have any registered submission for this one, if we have any registered submission for this application, committee members, if you have any question regarding this deferral request.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, Maurizio Rogato is present and been brought into the meeting in regard to this item.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, municipal staff, and ladies and gentlemen watching us virtually. I appear before you virtually this morning. I want to thank you for allowing my participation. It's a real testament to the ability of our city to continue working in the midst of a pandemic, I must say. With regards to my request for a deferral, it's a very simple request in that I have only been recently retained on this matter, and unfortunately I have not had the opportunity to review the issues and have productive discussions with the municipal planner. I did have a discussion on July 20th with the development services manager, who's indicated he's supportive of a deferral to a meeting in September. I am very much cognizant of committee's patience on this matter and this file, as I do understand there have been previous deferrals, and therefore I respectfully request committee continue to display their patience on this matter and permit one last deferral simply for the purpose of my professional development on the file. Of course, if there are any questions or comments, I would be more than happy to respond to the same to the best of my ability. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of committee.
Thank you, Mr. Regato. I would like to ask if there's anybody else who wishes to speak, any concerned neighbor or any written correspondence I don't believe we received. I would like to hear staff's opinion on it.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Stephen Dykstra here, development planner. As Mauricio has explained, yes, he was recently retained for the applicant at 62 Progress. As he also has noted, it has been going on for a very extended period of time, this application, and it's gone through the committee adjustments several times. As noted in my report, we are recommending refusal of this application, and barring that, if there's no reason why we can't defer, I don't see why we can't defer it one last time, but we do expect significant changes to this application, or else it will be again recommended for refusal, and that's where we're at with this.
Very well said, Mr. Dykstra. Mr. Regato, would you like to add something on that? You're mute, Mr. Regato. Can you unmute yourself first and then? Yeah.
My apologies, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Dykstra, we're absolutely committed to definitely bringing this application forward to a meeting in September. As mentioned in my introductory statement, I unfortunately have not had the opportunity to get into the substance of the issues, but rest assured that my involvement on this file is one to find a resolution. It's a very significant application as it carries with it economic development implications regarding the business that's in operation there today, while at the same time, we need to address some pretty serious planning issues as denoted within the staff report. I did have an opportunity, of course, to review the staff report, but unfortunately, I'm not prepared for a hearing this morning before committee. And as always, I'd like to give committee the opportunity of having a full spectrum of the issues and dialogue to help you have an informed decision. So regrettably, I'm unable to provide that this morning, but rest assured if a deferral is granted, we will be prepared for a meeting in September. And my hope is that I can come to terms with Mr. Dykstra and find a resolution so you would have a positive recommendation tabled before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Regato. As Mr. Dykstra said, that I know you are new to this file, but in the past we have this application came in front of us a number of times, and pretty much ever since the application came first time, we are still at the same place. Not much progress has been made on progress code. Let's put it this way. So, but again, you're new to this file, and I hope they are in good hands and which you are capable of. You've been to committee a few other times as well in the past. I personally have no problem, as your letter indicate that you'd like to defer this item to September's hearing. Is that correct? Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's absolutely correct. And as I said, I completely recognize the patience of this committee. I do not intend to request another referral, barring any unforeseen circumstances. My intention is to appear before you in September with the hope of a resolution, because this is a very important matter. There are 73 jobs at risk here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Through the chair, for committee's consideration, there are 2 meetings scheduled for September, one of them being September 8th, the other being September 29th.
So I assume, Mr. Regato, you would like to hear this on September 29th because of the submissions and filing, because the first meeting in September is at the very beginning, and you may not have enough time to work, because next month is August, and basically that will leave you for the filing deadline and any new information, the send out the notices and stuff. So in my understanding, I guess end of September is the right time, the September the 29th.
Mr. Chairman, I do intend to agree with you. However, I'm in the hands of committee because I recognize the several prior deferrals. However, I do agree that, speaking logically, September 29th would be the best practical date.
Okay, if if there's any other question or comment by committee members, this is the time. If not, looking for a motion of deferral for September 29th hearing for this application, which is, there you go, A19099 for September 29th hearing.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would we not want to maybe look at, and I hate doing deferrals, but maybe look at in October, given the current situation that we're in with COVID, is it likely that in 2 months they'll be able to have some type of resolution and be able to come back?
Mr. Power, thank you for bringing that question. That's why I asked, and that's why I did not ask for beginning of September hearing. The letter from Mr. Regato indicate September. They wish to proceed in September. However, if Mr. Regato feels that there will be other meeting in the middle of October, the committee can look into it, as Mr. Power indicated. But if Mr. Regato feels that end of September is enough time, I'm okay with that too.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to member Mr. Power, firstly, thank you for the expression of permitting additional time. As I said in my introduction, unfortunately, and I have an obligation to committee, I'm not aware of the details of the issues. So therefore, any prediction I would make would probably be incorrect. But one item that I will promise is that I will work as expeditiously and efficiently as possible on behalf of my client and in fact, the public interest to try to resolve this matter. As I've mentioned to you, this application on its surface, it entails 4 minor variances. However, the impact of the decision on such variances could be catastrophic for the business, my client's business, and in turn, the several employees currently there. So, while my correspondence did request September, that request was in recognition that this committee has been ultra patient on this application. I would take whatever I could get. Any good graces of committee I will accept openly, and I will work immediately thereafter. I have a commitment to you professionally. This is not a game on my behalf to defer this matter since additional time. However, Member Power, I can't predict whether or not I'd be successful with the September timeline. All I guarantee is that I will work as quickly and efficiently as possible. Therefore, I'm in the hands of committee as to scheduling a date of deferral, and I would gladly accept an October date as well. I would leave that to committee because I recognize that this committee has been incredibly patient on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Regato. What I would quickly like to ask Ms. Myers, what are the exact date in October's meeting, and so the committee members can have options while they putting a motion forward for the deferral. We have October 29th is exact 2 months. Of course, any new submission require, there's a deadline in, I believe, sometime first week or the second week of September. So which gives us pretty much, especially to work with the staff, the option to work with staff for the agent, roughly about a month. So Ms. Myers, if you can advise what, I believe there's only one meeting in October, and if you can tell the committee which day is this, so the members has the options.
Through the chair, I can confirm that there is a meeting scheduled for October 20th of this year, and the filing deadline for any new information to be provided is September 22nd.
Okay. So committee members, there's two options, motion for September 29th or October 20th. So Mr. Power, would you like to move this deferral request?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would suggest, given that the deadline for the October 20th is September 22nd for filing, that motion to proceed or deferral to October 20th.
Okay. So committee members, the motion been put forward by Mr. Power for the October 20th hearing to defer this matter. Do we have a seconder for this motion by Mr. Power? By Mr. Cope, all in favor? This is carried unanimously. So Mr. Rogato, see you, I guess, virtually in October.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pray that we will be in person, but I suspect it'll be virtual. Thank you very much, members of committee, for your continued patience.
Thank you, Mr. Power.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other deferral request or withdrawal?
Through the chair, I can confirm that we have not received any further correspondence requesting a withdrawal or deferral of any applications on today's agenda.
Yes, I was checking that. Thank you, Ms. Myers, for helping out. So for those unfamiliar with the Committee of Adjustment procedure and process, I would like to give a brief explanation and scope following some procedural matters that we have already undergone. The Secretary Treasurer will call the applications by announcing the application number, the name of the applicant, and address of the property subject to the application. The applicant or authorized agent representing the applicant will then be invited into the meeting by the WebEx event host by Mr. Clerk. I request that you reserve any questions or comments pertaining to the staff report until after the planning staff has had an opportunity to present. If there's anyone who has registered to participate electronically who wishes to speak to a particular application, you will be given the opportunity to do so when the application is presented and will be invited into the meeting by the WebEx event host. Any decision made here today may be appealed to the local planning appeal tribunal previously through the Ontario Municipal Board. Appeal received in the city clerk's office associated with minor variance and consent application will be processed and forwarded to LPAT. This process may be commenced with the Secretary Treasurer by filing a completed appeal form and filing fee within the prescribed 20 days appeal period. Information pertaining to the appeal process may be obtained by contacting the Secretary Treasurer within the City Clerk's office. We now move on to the consent applications.
Calling applications B19-026 and related minor variance application A19-166, Keri and David Jeffrey Rawlings. The property is located at 1553 Hallstone Road.
David Rawlings, you have now brought into the meeting. You can unmute your microphone and please address the committee. David, I will assist, but, oh, there you go. I think you're unmuted. Please go ahead.
There we go. Are we on now?
Yes, please proceed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, David.
So, Mr. Rawlings, you can proceed with your submission for your application.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure what to say. What do you mean proceed?
We're just bringing it forth.
Mr. Rawlings, if there's anything you wish to add to your application so the committee can consider all the information in making its decision.
I don't think so. We received the notification last week with requirements that are needed there, and we agreed to all of them. They're all fine with us. We're just kind of waiting now. I guess this the variance is one thing, but yeah, we're fine with everything so far.
Okay, committee members. So I assume we are both applications at the same time we are reviewing. And the committee members, any question, comment, concern to the applicant or the agent? Seeing none, anyone wishes to speak? For the record, I would like to acknowledge a correspondence by Mr. Bob Crouch, stating his concerns and given the history of this neighborhood. Mr. Crouch is a well-known member of the community, and we had opportunity to work with him as well in the past on this committee. So that he put together some nice history. Thank you, Mr. Crouch, for sending these concerns. Staff or Mr. Clerk, if there's no other written correspondence, I would like to proceed and hear staff's recommendations.
Mr. Chair, as we are considering both applications, the consent and the variance, we do have a registrant, Mr. James Dye, a resident of Hallstone Road, who wishes to address the committee. And Mr. Dye, I'm going to unmute your microphone, and you can please proceed to address the committee.
Hello, Chairman and staff. Thank you. I know Dave quite well. I actually bought the house across the road, which his dad used to live in. And I'm just wondering, I know Dave probably wants to sell the land and make a bit of money and then whatever, move on. I don't know his goals, but if you've had a chance to visit the site, it is quite a nice setting, and being the immediate neighbor from the site, it could potentially be an eyesore depending on who lives there, and traffic is increased. So just a few concerns of what will be there, what it will look like, and I don't know who will be there, nobody can say that, but it is a heritage district and Churchville has a nice vibe about it. So I'm not sure what the rules are about more development. I may not have any say in severing land. I didn't go over the rules, but just concerned what will be there.
Back to Mr. Rawlings. Would you like to add any comment as the neighbor stated their concerns?
Well, I appreciate James' concern. Right now, it's just a severance. It's a 100-foot wide lot. As far as laneway access goes, nothing will be decided, of course, by us, but it can vary. It won't be opposite James. It can be, 50, 60 feet away. The house, of course, will have to correspond to whatever heritage tells us, advises us to do. So we're going to fall within the heritage rules, which we've abided by so far. Again, it's the unknown. I don't know who will be building a house there or what kind of a house, but it'll have to go through the city of Brampton, obviously, and be approved.
Here.
Okay. Committee members, if any question, comment, concern at this point, you may ask, or I would ask staff to weigh their comments so we can hear them as well. Staff, could you please weigh your comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Shelby Swinfield here, Development Planner. So staff have reviewed applications B19-026 and related application A19-166, and we have recommendations related to the both. I'm sure you'll notice they are broken up into two chunks in the report, so I'm just going to read those two chunks for you. That consent application B19-026 is supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number 1, that the Secretary Treasurer shall have been satisfied that the following conditions have been fulfilled within 1 year of the mailing date noted below, and the Secretary Treasurer's certificate under the Planning Act shall be given. A, that the Secretary's certificate shall be paid in the amount current at the time of the issuance of the certificate. B, approval of the draft reference plans as applicable shall be obtained at the Committee of Adjustment office, and the required number of prints resultant deposited reference plans shall be received. Number 2, that the applicant shall enter into an agreement with the city relating to the future gratuitous conveyance of the right-of-way shown in the official plan to the city in the event and at such time as the city may in the future determine the conveyance is required for future municipal utility or service infrastructure needs or requirements to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services and the city solicitor. And that variance application A19-166 is supportable subject to the following conditions being imposed. That any removal, demolition, or alteration of any heritage feature within the Village of Churchville Heritage Conservation District, including the hedgerows, mature trees, and wood split rail fence along Hallstone Road, shall be reviewed and approved through a heritage permit in accordance with the Ontario Heritage Act, the Village of Churchville Heritage Conservation District Plan, and sections 410, 310, 410, 311, 410, and 312 of the official plan, and that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of committee shall render the approval null and void. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shelby. Committee members, any question, comment, or concern, or any other additional information you would like to have? If not, I would like to ask Mr. Rawlings if are you okay with all the staff recommendation, and do you understand and accept all these recommendations?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if no further discussion, looking for a motion to proceed. Many members? Motion put forward by Ms. Marcus to support staff recommendation, Ms. Marcus?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, do we have seconder for motion? Seconded by Ms. Dossler to support Ms. Marcus' motion. All in favor? This is approved by recommending staff recommendation, supporting staff recommendation. Thank you. This is approved.
Our next application is application A 2020-0040.
That's it.
Emerald Energy from Wasting, and the property is located at 7656 Bramley Road.
Mr. Chair, Eric Mertzu, on behalf of the applicant, is here to address the committee. Eric, you are in the meeting now. You can unmute your microphone and please proceed. Eric, I'll assist and unmute your microphone. Please proceed, Eric.
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good morning, members of the committee. My name is Eric Mertz. I'm here on behalf of the applicant for this minor variance application. And I guess, kind of give you just a quick brief background. We were here once before, about 5 years ago, basically requesting a land exchange on the property just to facilitate a service road on site for operational purposes. And since that time, we've done some design on the some detailed design on the property where we were requiring a little bit more fluctuation in our previous variance. So this is just basically coming back to make an adjustment to an older variance, which will facilitate a bit more of a land exchange between the industrial zoned area and the floodplain zoned area.
My apologies, I was mute. Mr. Mauricio, is that everything you would like to speak about the application?
Yeah, sorry, were you able to hear me before? Or?
Okay. Any members, any question, comment, concern regarding this application? Seeing none. For the record, we have this letter from TRCA stating conditional approval for this application. However, I would like to just read a bit. So there's the TRCA staff recommends conditional approval for the minor variance application A 2020-0040 as currently submitted, subject to the following conditioner: that the owner provide an adequate engineering analysis to the TRCA to demonstrate the mitigation of potential impacts associated with the removal of lands from the addition of lands to the floodplains. Now we move on to staff. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Staff have reviewed the application A 2020-0040 and find it to be supportable, subject to the following conditions being imposed. Number one, that the extent of the variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public notice. Number two, that the owner provide an engineering analysis to demonstrate the mitigation of potential impacts associated with the removal of lands from and addition of lands to the floodplain to the satisfaction of the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. Number three, that a basic site plan application shall be submitted within 180 days of the committee's final decision or within an extended period of time as approved by the Director of Development Services, and the site plan shall be approved prior to the establishment of the use permissions, and that failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void. Thank you.
Back to Mr. Mauricio, is that you okay and understand and accept all the staff recommendation?
Yes, we're aware of them and we're fine with those.
Okay, if no further question, comment, or concern, committee members, looking forward to proceed and looking for a motion to move ahead. Motion put forward by Mr. Cope, seconded by Mr. Power. All in favor? This is approved as staff's recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mauricio.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our next application is application A19-198-217-0384 Ontario Corp. The property is addressed as 75, 85, and 95 Cottrell Boulevard. Just a reminder that member Chadha has declared conflict of interest on this application.
Good morning, everybody. I'll be taking over for this file in Mr. Chadha's absence. Is there an agent present for this application?
Through you, Madam Acting Chair, there is Bill Bangal. And Bill, you've been brought into the meeting and you can turn your microphone on and please address the committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, city staff, and city council members. We just wanted, first of all, thank you for tabling this application today. We've been waiting patiently during COVID for this application. And I just want to thank you for taking this on today.
Good morning. And I just wondered, do you have any comments to offer?
No, based on the staff report, I don't have any comments to offer. It's pretty well acceptable to us what the recommendations are for this from the staff.
Okay, thank you. Do any members of the committee have any comments or questions at this time?
No.
Seeing none. Are there any members of the public who have any comments or questions that are with us?
Through you, Madam Acting Chair, there are no members of the public that have expressed an interest to address the committee.
Okay, thank you. So staff, if you could please provide your comments.
Hi, good morning. This is Yingxia, Development Planner. So the application is supportable subject to following conditions being imposed. Number one, that the owner finalize site plan approval under city file number SP18-062, execute a site plan agreement and post any required financial securities and insurance to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services within 180 days, or extended at the discretion of the Director of Development Services upon the receipt of a written request for extension from the owner. Number two, the requirement for parking for any combination of uses permitted in the Highway Commercial 2 Special Section 1622 zone be calculated at the applicable parking rate in accordance with zoning bylaw and shall not exceed 63 parking spaces. Number three, the extent of variances be limited to that shown on the sketch attached to the public meeting. And number four, failure to comply with and maintain the conditions of the committee shall render the approval null and void. Thank you.
Thank you. To the applicant, do you accept all conditions as put forward by city staff?
Accepted. Thank you.
Accepted. Perfect. All right. So just need a motion. See Mr. Power, a motion to approve as per staff recommendations.
Yep, I'll second that.
And seconded by Mr. Kolb. All in favor? That is passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application is application A 2020-0010, 10179-469 Canada Inc. The property is located at 73 Sunpack Boulevard.
Mr. Chair, there is an authorized agent, Narendra Sharma, on behalf of the applicant, who has been brought into the meeting. And Narendra, you can please address the committee.
Mr. Sharma, are you there?
Narendra, I'll unmute your microphone.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes. Good morning, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on this minor variance application. Upon reviewing the city comments, I have a few comments of my own to add on. Basically, we are not applying for a variance to extend the use of the property. We are basically asking for a variance to be able to have a pre-consultation meeting and go ahead with the construction of the proposed building on site. We also submitted on July 20th, 3 p.m., a conceptual plan of the building that we are proposing on this property. So we are looking for just enough time so that we can go ahead with the pre-consultation meeting and through the site plan approval and go ahead with the building permit process. So we just need sufficient time for that.
Okay. Mr. Sharma, we already had some discussions in the previous, in the meetings, I believe, sometime in January or February, I believe it was February.
Right.
So there were some concerns this committee expressed, and it's good to see that you're working for your client and advancing towards the process and finishing up with the site plan process and stuff. However, committee member, if there is any question, comment, concern at this point, If none, I would like to ask Mr. Clerk if there's any member of the public like to participate. If not, then I would like to hear staff recommendation.
Mr. Chair, there is no one who is requested to address the committee on this matter.
Thank you. Staff, could you please weigh in your comments?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, staff have reviewed application A2020-0010 and recommend that it be refused. This application was heard by committee in March of 2020, earlier this year, at which time staff had also recommended refusal of the application. It was the decision of the committee at that time to defer the application to give the applicant some additional time to complete unfinished site works that were required as a condition of approval from the previous variance request a number of years earlier that had not been completed in accordance with that decision issued by committee. So it was the intention of that deferral to give the applicant time to, rearrange the site, do some work to make it consistent with the currently approved site plan. However, based on a site visit I completed July 21st, no improvements had been made to the site. And that remains to be staff's main concern, is that despite there being an approved site plan, it has not been implemented to date.
Back to Mr. Thank you, staff, for your report recommendations, and especially expressing the condition for about the site on July 21st. Back to Mr. Sharma, I know you would like to add something. We had this meeting in March, Mr. Sharma, and I personally indicate my clear intentions towards the site, how poorly the site has been managed, the way staff was lenient over the time. Even this property granted committee's approval 2 times, and it's almost 10 years. And even we clearly expressed our concerns, both by the staff and by the committee members. From March to July, there's a lot of time. I understand there was COVID, but the businesses are going on, and especially the nature of the business being operated from this lot comes under essential services, and the type of work was required, that also comes under essential services. So if there is no improvement or any attempt to improve the site has been made in between, forget about the past, but at least between March and July, please tell me why myself and the committee members should be sympathized with your application.
Well, we're not saying that we're not willing to go ahead with the improvements suggested by the city. We're simply saying that give us enough time just to approve the plans and start the construction. So you can give us conditional approval pending building permit, that building permit be obtained within, say, 2 years. But we just need time to go ahead and escalate this process so that we can propose the
Mr.
building.
Sharma, with all due respect, please answer what I requested to you between March to July. I know you're keen to get 2 years extension. That is up to the committee. You already said that, and staff has refused. We are talking about the improvements of the site, right? Versus you are clearly mentioning about the extension. This committee knows how to put together all those conditions. That should be coming at the end. Even if this committee refused this application today, you can still process the way you like to do in terms of approvals of the site plans and stuff. We are talking about the variances, the business being currently operated from this place. So respectfully, you are talking about the next step, which we do, which I personally or the committee don't have any concern, which is a good thing if you or your applicants are willing to work with the staff, because ultimately that's the process. What we are talking about, the temporary permission has been granted on this. And specifically, when I requested about your answer, any of the improvement work between in the past or between March and July this year. Thank you. Please proceed.
Well, about the improvements, I spoke to the applicant. I spoke to the client about it, and he's told me that he wanted to go ahead with the hearing and wanted to know the outcome, and he wanted to complete the entire work of the landscaping and the building in one proposal. He didn't want to do half the work now and half the work later. So that was his intention, that he wanted to comprise everything into one application and present it in a pre-consultation meeting with the city.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you don't mind me speaking.
Please go ahead.
My only concern is that they've had ample opportunity to put forth the effort to obviously improve this this area, and it's evident that it's fallen on deaf ears, which is a concern of mine. The fact that our applicant is waiting for us to approve something before he takes the initiative to further improve his process here is something, again, like I said earlier, I'm concerned about. He doesn't want to put the effort in to better his property and to do these things to obviously better his case brought forward to the committee. And if the fact that he's not going to put that effort in to perhaps sway some of our judgments and the decisions we make, then I mean, it leaves it pretty obvious on my end that I follow through with what the staff has recommended, and that's to refuse the application.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Anybody else from members of the committee wishes to speak anything on it? Back to Mr. Sharma. You mentioned that your client is not willing to spend his resources in terms of to making the improvement of the site as is, but at the same time,
Mr. Shedda, that's not exactly what I was saying. I was saying that he told us that rather than having work done part by part, because his intention is to build the building, and he wanted to make sure that the construction is done in one specific period so that the interruption to business is minimum, and that all the changes that need to be done and all the proposals that need to be made would be presented to the city in a pre-consultation meeting, and then we would go ahead with the changes required. Because
Mr. Sharma,
yes.
Respectfully, and please hold your thought, and please, you can speak back respectfully after once I finish. There are two separate things we are talking. I completely understand. So that means simply your client was waiting for us to make a judgment today, and then maybe to do their whatever the work or the requirement or the improvements on the site, and then go to the staff, and by then maybe 6 months or 1 year is already gone by the time you go into the pre-con meeting. I'm sorry, I don't want to proceed like this, but you can continue as you mentioned. At the same time, I would like to ask staff, do we have any application received from this applicant in terms of their intentions to proceed with the building and the proposal Mr. Applicant is suggesting?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did receive a concept sketch from the applicant on July 20th, as he indicated. He indicated in the email that he would be presenting more details of this of the proposed site plan at the committee meeting. However, I did review the proposed site plan and the already approved site plan on site, and they are almost identical. However, the currently approved site plan does require a number of site improvements the most notable kind of being the biggest obvious one is there's a big concrete apron that is proposed to be installed at the entrance to the site. In the revised site plan, there is no longer that concrete apron being installed. You know, the accessible parking spaces have been moved further from the building. But the arrangement of the outdoor storage is incredibly similar in nature to what is already approved. So in theory, the site improvements that would come from a new approval, which to very clearly answer your question, Mr. Chadha, we have not yet received a formal application for a new site plan for this site. But the improvements that would likely be a result of a new site plan are very similar to the ones that are already required by the approved site plan that have not been implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Enfield. What I'd like to ask to staff, and I just posed this question to the committee members. There are two things in my mind. One is to refuse this application and go ahead with the staff recommendation, and at the same time, because we have given ample opportunities for this applicant to improve the sites. They had a representative. It's not that they did not have a representative. So I'm sure the message has been conveyed on multiple occasions. Still between March and now, there was no attempt to improve. Any single work has been commenced on the site. So that is one thing I would like to look. Second is, I understand all the businesses get hit during the COVID, and I just don't want to interrupt the life of the people being operating from there. All those hardworking truck drivers, they also they are the frontline workers and they're delivering the goods in this current pandemic time. That is one side of me. Absolutely, there's no scope for me to personally have any sympathy towards this application. The way so far the owner has been acting, or I'm not satisfied with any of the comments made by Mr. Sharma. However, I would like to ask staff if the committee put a condition that within 3 months all pending improvements need to be done, and within 1 year we do provide, they need to come up with proper proposal within the next 6 months from the committee's approval. I would like to put something similar, these kind of conditions if I'm moving forward. I don't mind putting all these tough timelines, and I will not be moving personally for any of 2-year proposal or something. I'm sorry, Mr. Sharma, those days are gone. The people are, this site is pretty much on a good developed neighborhood. It's not somewhere outskirts where just the fencing and a little bit of gravel asphalt is acceptable. That was for 10 years. And the simple requirement of handicap special need parking has not been met. So, and some other concerns by the staff. So,
Mr. Siddha, if I may, sorry to interrupt you.
No problem, Mr. Sharma.
I'm fine with the comments you've made. I'm okay with the timelines you've suggested. We do have the intention to move forward, so those timelines are fine by me.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. I would like to hear staff. Staff, if you can please suggest. I can see. I don't see other committee members, but I see Mr. Cope. Would you like to add something, Mr. Cope?
Well, the only thing that I was going to add was, again, through you, Mr. Chair, is the fact that opportunity's been given numerous times for them to address this matter. As I've already said earlier, that my suggestion is to refuse this application, and in the event they decide to change their perhaps tone and the manner in which that they want to address these issues, they can put forward another application and they can go through the process again. And I think that in and of itself is going to resonate with the fact that we mean business as to how we're doing things here, and the fact that it's important and imperative that they do follow some of the recommendations that are given to them. I think more often than not, we are very generous with any applications that come forward, and that includes the staff as well. I just think this one particular one has not been taken serious. So I think as much as I hate to do it, we have to take a more stern approach. And I think refusing the application is going to be in the best interest of everyone, and perhaps convey the message that we need these matters addressed, and the staff's recommendations are serious. And we need them to be taken that way so other people don't take advantage of us and our good nature. That's pretty much all I have to say in relation to that, Mr. Chao. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I may, respond to...
Sorry, Mr. Sharma.
Yeah, if I may respond to Mr. Cope, we are not trying to take advantage of the committee. We understand that you have been very lenient and sympathetic, and we really appreciate that. Our intention is to move forward, and the timelines that Mr. Chadha suggested, you know, those are just there so that we have the time to prepare the application and submit it. Regardless, we are going with the construction. We are not asking the minor variance to continue the use. We are just asking the time so that we can file the application and start the paperwork for the construction. We are not asking to take some time and just prolong the use without doing anything.
Okay. No, I understand that, and certainly you're conveying the message on behalf of the applicant. But like I said, the few months that has passed, nothing has changed, which leads me to believe that, and I hate to even use the term where it's almost carelessness on their behalf, where they're really not taking it serious as to what the efforts that we put into to put these bylaws into place and some of these recommendations that the staff take time to put together. It just doesn't seem like they've taken it serious, which is all I've expressed in terms of what I've seen in this entire application process.
No, I completely agree with you, and I have told strictly to the client that we are not going to ask for an extension just to prolong the use, because this has gone for too long and the entire neighborhood has developed in that time. So it's about time that we go ahead and propose a change to the site. And the client is agreed with that. Yeah.
Mr. Sharma, you are asking for extension actually another 2 years.
Well, we can go ahead with your timeline.
Right?
Yeah.
Is your client with you and they're also listening at the committee's concern? Are they fully aware what we are talking or what has been discussed, or they don't know what's going on?
Yes, they know the depth and the gravity of the situation. They're aware. They're currently not with me attending the hearing.
Okay. Staff members, I would like to obviously ask which way the committee members would like to go, but what my suggestion is, and please let us know if something we are suggesting is workable or not. I'd like to put together something, obviously the failure to comply at the end, and the one is in the next 3 months, all pending work need to be done, and to come forward full some application as they already indicated in 6 months from now. Is in between these lines, is there something can we achieve at the same time if we allow the party for the next 6 months given the circumstances, or I may extend a couple of months extra on this.
Mr. Chair, it's Carmen Caruso, Development Services Manager. I'd just like to, I do have a concern with moving forward with, for two reasons. Moving forward with an approval on this site. This site has been on the radar, I guess, for about 10 years now. Their original approval was in 2010. And since that time, it's been about 10 years, there hasn't been any improvement on the site. So that is a real concern from a staff perspective. Secondly, my understanding, staff did do a site visit on, I believe it was July 21st. And there was no evidence of a sign on the property. So moving forward, I'm not sure that we're in compliance with the Planning Act if there was not the appropriate notice wasn't given.
Mr. Caruso, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I personally installed the sign on June 17th at 7 p.m. And it was posted directly on top of the previous sign that was installed. So I'm not sure if you were looking at that area or where you were looking at, but the sign was installed by me personally 7 p.m. on Friday, July the 17th.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I might add to that, the sign was posted. It was incredibly difficult to see due to the other advertising signage that was posted on the fence that I will note was previously a condition of variance approval, that all that excess signage be removed. And ultimately it did cause an issue with being able to identify where the minor variance sign was.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the applicant or the agent on record has also indicated that this has gone on long enough. So I would tend to support the staff with their recommendation to refuse, as well as support Mr. Culp.
Okay, committee members, as staff has expressed their genuine concerns. However, Mr. Sharma, I know you have tried yourself at this meeting and the meeting of March as well to allow us to give them some more time. However, right now, the way committee feels that they and the staff, even though I tried my best to propose something which gives your applicant, which gives your careless applicant a bit more time, respectfully. But right now, the way things are, both our hardworking staff and committee members have no faith on your applicant that there will be some work done. We have given numerous time extensions and in last two hearings, things did not go well. We would have been impressed, as staff indicated, if meantime all these applications got delayed because of the current pandemic situations, we were more than lenient, and somehow, unfortunately, the kind of environment we are in, the nature also helped your client to continue the ongoing business and from that site. So to me, they had ample amount of time if they sincerely wish to do some improvement. At the end, what I would like to say that this committee has already indicated that they are not satisfied with this comments that we will do, even though I suggested. So right now, I'd like to hear our committee members, their proposed motions, or if they want to make any comment. But in the event if this application has been refused, you still have the opportunity to work with the staff, and the staff already fully aware of the situation. You can simply work with them and put together your proposal in order for to going ahead with the proposed site development. So Committee members, if there's any comment, concern, you can address now. I already have Mr. Power indicated that would like to move the motion to support staff recommendation, which is the refusal of this application. And Mr. Culp, you indicated before. So if one time I would like to hear who is the mover and who's the seconder, and if you can read your motion, that will help.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to move the motion to refuse it based on the staff recommendation. And I certainly hope, and even based on the fact that we want to move this, that they still work with staff in the near future in the event that they do decide to go through with another application process. We certainly don't want this to discourage them, but in my true beliefs and as it stands right now, based on the totality of the circumstances and the history, that I'd like to see this refused at this point in time and work with them in the near future.
Seconded.
Motion put forward by Mr. Culp, refusing the application, seconded by Mr. Power. All in favor? This is refused. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for appearing in front of the committee.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you'll be working with the staff for the future and for the advancement and improvement of this site. Thank you.
Yes, of course, that's our intention. Thank you so much.
Through the chair, if I can have clarification on the members that voted, if the vote was carried by unanimously, or if there was anybody that dissented? Yes,
the committee voted unanimously to refuse this application, Ms. Myers.
Unanimously is your answer, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Myers.
Thank you. Our next application is application A 2020-0022, Keri's Place Residential Services. The property is located at 58 Newberry Crescent.
Mr. Chair, there are a number of persons to speak to this item. First are the applicant's authorized agent and representatives. Mark Camara and Michael Morris have been brought into the meeting to address, and then subsequent to their remarks to committee and any questions the committee may have, there are a number of persons that wish to speak. And Icbl Alawali, Amrik Alawali, Narendra Sharma, Baljit Gill, and we have additional people that have asked to speak but haven't connected to the meeting, and maybe they will connect while the other persons are speaking. So we'll start with the applicant, Mark Camara and Michael Morris. You can turn on your mics and please proceed.
Thank you very much. It's Mark Camara speaking. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, you'll recall we were last before the committee on the 3rd of March before the pandemic. At that time, this application was adjourned for further consideration by staff on the issue of a study that was undergoing with respect to supportive housing facilities undertaken by an external consultant, WSP. The variances we're seeking are 2 in number, as confirmed by the staff report before you, and that staff report, as you know, is supportive of the application. The variances are to, 1, permit a supportive housing facility at this address. That use would be permitted, but for interim control bylaw 288-2019. It would be permitted as of right. So we are seeking to reestablish that status for the reasons I set out in my letter of February 18th. And the second one is to permit an interior side yard setback of 0.2 meters. And that's with respect to an existing shed in the rear yard, which has been there for decades. So in a sense, it's a technical variance because that has existed for a long time with no impact. At the 3rd March meeting, a number of residents showed up to express concern with respect to the application. They were worried about the presence of a group home on their street, and they felt there would be associated impacts, that there would be crime, there'd be drainage issues, traffic issues, and such. So to address some of those concerns by the neighbors, we thought we would start with the permission of the committee with a short 1-minute video prepared by Michael Morris, which is an abbreviation of a video that's on YouTube for Keri's Place. So if we could start with that, and that will show the committee and residents the true nature of those who live in the supportive housing facility. And after that, I'll make further submissions, which will be fairly brief.
So, Mr. Chair, we're just queuing up the video right now, and it'll be playing momentarily.
And while you're queuing that up, I'll also mention, of course, Michael Morris and Jacqueline Ferguson are here. If there are any questions with respect to the actual operation of the facility, of the house, as you know from my letter, Keri's Place operates a substantial number of similar houses across the province, including in Brampton, and they've done that without any complaints. Those houses have been well integrated within the communities they're situated in.
Welcome to Keri's Place Autism Services. We are Canada's largest service provider to families with children, adolescents, and adults with autism spectrum disorder. Since 1974, Keri's Place has been creating and providing evidence-based supports and services across the province of Ontario that enhance the quality of life for those with ASD. Today, we are envisioning a future where all persons with autism spectrum disorder are fully participating in their communities. We provide adults with ASD, residential and semi-independent living supports at 90 distinct properties across Ontario. Our group living approach provides a safe 24-hour home environment where residents are encouraged to pursue their own personal goals, including outings into the community, employment, athletics, and a varied array of hobbies and interests. Our residents grow and live their lives with Keri's Place. Some individuals have been with us for over 30 years. And through a lifetime of shared pursuits and generational experiences, we too grow and live with them. Keri's Place Autism Services, this is our community.
Thank you very much. So as you'll see from the video, what's being proposed is essentially it's going to be a single family home. Will have no more impact than a regular, if you will, single family home with family living in it. At the last meeting, I set out in submissions and through my letter of 18 February, the services, the necessary and important services provided by Keri's Place for people with autism and their families who require semi-independent living. And the lack of any adverse neighborhood impacts or concerns where such houses operate. I set out for you that what's proposed here is for up to 6 adults living with autism to live in the house, supported by supportive workers, that there would be no issues with respect to parking and traffic, that there would be no change whatsoever with respect to the house itself. This is not the type of variances where, for example, we're seeking to add an addition. So there will be no issues with respect to drainage, for example. And most importantly, this housing is required as a number of the residents support who are scheduled to move into this house should this application be permitted, are now living in emergency shelters and require this housing on an urgent basis. And that is, as you can imagine, particularly important in this time of COVID. The committee will also be aware, of course, and I think this is in the materials before the committee and members of the public, that the planning staff report of today's date is supportive of the application. The interim control bylaw has not been repealed, but WSP has done important work with respect to examining supportive housing facilities. And that work has in fact recommended, as you'll note from the staff report, removing restrictions on supportive housing. The staff report confirms that the application for the 2 variances conforms to the official plan and the city zoning bylaw, it is desirable and appropriate for the development of this site. Again, it will be a single-family neighborhood house, which will have no adverse impacts on the neighborhood. Staff can will speak to their report, of course. With respect to the conditions they've set out there, the extent of the variances be limited to the sketch. That's fine, of course. With respect to the group home use being established through the city's registration process, now that is unnecessary because that is a legal requirement. They can't operate a group home or supportive housing facility on the site unless, of course, their registration application has been accepted and approved by city staff after a review. The committee may remember that that application was submitted last October prior to the interim control bylaw being passed. But if that condition is one way of assuring residences, then we will not have an issue with it. Number 3, the drainage on adjacent properties shall not be impacted. Again, there are no changes to the house, so there will be no drainage impact. In our view, that it's in the hands of committee, but that's really not necessary. But I'm certainly happy to hear planning staff's report or comments on that, particularly if it helps to assuage neighborhood concerns with respect to any impacts this house would have. So in short, for the reasons I've set out, for the reasons today, for the reasons we set out in our appearance before you in March of this year, we're requesting that the variances be approved. And again, this is very important as there are residents scheduled to move into this house who are now living in emergency housing and whose families are very concerned about their well-being as a result. So we respectfully request that this committee approve the variances, and you have, as this is a planning body, you have the planning staff report that confirms that the variances are appropriate and should be approved. Those are my submissions. Thank you. And again, if you have any questions about the operation itself, Michael Morris and Jacqueline Ferguson are here to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so there are a number of residents, unless members of committee have questions of the applicant. Do you wish to proceed with the public delegations on this matter?
We would like to proceed with the public delegation, Mr. Clerk.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt for one moment.
I was going to ask about Icbl to you, Mr. Crusoe, but you can go ahead, please.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've had some very recent discussions with senior planning staff with regard to this this application, and notwithstanding the recommendations that are before you, there is a request to defer this application. As the applicant quite rightly pointed out, there is a study that is ongoing that is undertaking the review of supportive housing, including group homes. And the goal is to align our policies with current best practices. The city has hired a consultant and is working and is tasked with putting forward recommendations to council. However, at this stage, these recommendations haven't been vetted through council. And the request is to defer until we've had some discussion with this, so we understand council's direction on this matter. Thank you.
If I can address that, sir.
Sure, Mr.
Hammer. I'm not aware of any request for a deferral. Certainly there was no discussion at the commencement of today's meeting for a deferral. And I have to say, you know, we didn't support a deferral request in March because of the adverse impacts that would have on those adults living with autism who are to be in the house if approved. And it seems to me doubly unfair that without any request by staff for a deferral, you don't find that request certainly in the planning staff report. It seems doubly unfair that my client would be subjected to a further deferral, when in fact staff states very specifically through their report that the consultant has come up with recommendations. Of course, they have to be vetted by council. But those recommendations are clear that this supportive housing facility is appropriate and desired. Moreover, the whole idea of a minor variance is to seek relief on, in this case, on a site-specific basis from the council decision to implement an interim control bylaw. But there is no request that I know of or aware of for a deferral. And I think it would be grossly unfair to my client who has waited since March to bring this back on. And of course, there was a delay due to COVID. But this planning staff report recommends approval at this point in time. And I again request that that be granted by the committee.
Sure. Thank you for your comment. Mr. Clerk, as you mentioned, we have some members of the public present as well. If you like to bring them one by one.
Yes.
Meantime, committee members, if you have any question, you're more than welcome to ask now or after the public participation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So there were a number of individuals who requested to speak. Mark Bryant and Tara Alonso requested to delegate this morning, but they have not connected to the meeting. So I'll go to the next person in line, which was Icbl Alawali. Please unmute your microphone and please proceed. Go ahead, Icbl. Icbl, if you can please turn down your speakers when you address the committee so there's no feedback, please. So Icbl, please go ahead. Sorry, Icbl, sorry. We cannot hear you. It's all muffled. You need to turn down your speakers. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to, and I think you may be speaking too close to the microphone. I'm going to stand down Icbl, and we're going to move on to Amrik Alawali. Sorry, Icbl, I'm going to put you on mute because it's not, you're not coming through at the moment. So the next person on the list is Amrik Alawali. Amrik, can you please unmute your microphone and address the committee?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Good morning. I sent in a letter, or an email, I should say, not too long ago addressing this issue. My main concern in regards to the issue was that we did mention how there's interim control bylaw in place. And because of that, it would be incompatible to not refuse it. We should be refusing the application because there's a bylaw in place. Because of the COVID, there was a declared emergency act that came out and that said any bylaw that's in place should continue to be in place until such time. If we go ahead and allow such an application, you're basically creating a precedent that the act that comes in place means nothing at that point. Also back in March, we also discussed other issues that came to light, such as there's going to be increase in traffic. Mark had also mentioned that the families are also worried about the members of the housing committee looking to find a place. I understand that, but that also means staff coming in. That also means families coming in, as you pointed out, which means increase in traffic. Also means you're changing the dynamic of the actual block, right? And if you're changing the dynamic of a block, you showed us a video and everything, which is great. But what that video kind of symbolizes is that you're essentially bringing a business onto a block. That's what it symbolizes to me, because it's, you can call a fork a spoon. That doesn't mean that the fork becomes a spoon. It's a business that still receives funding from the government. It's still run like a business. There's a CEO and everything for it. Yeah, you're saying it's going to be like a house. You can call it a house, but it's going to be run like a business in a sense, right? The other aspect that I wanted to point out is that we received this notice about a few days ago. Within a few days, I also sent in a number of signatures that were opposed to this application. At the very least, I think we should be deferring it. If not refusing it, we should be deferring it because of the bylaw that's in place. And as well, because there's a number of members, as you just heard, that are not able to participate. It'd be prejudice on them not being able to participate because they can't voice their concerns and their opinion. Most of the street, if not all, are opposed to it. Went around individually speaking to neighbors that were opposed to it. And as I mentioned at the last committee meeting, they wanted to, open up Keri's place and everything on the street. No one ever approached the neighborhood asking, hey, what do you think about this idea? Would you be in support of it? No one approached us then, and since then, even when I mentioned it, no one still came around speaking to anyone. I understand COVID's in place and everything, but emails could have been, somehow reached out. The Mark had also received the list of all the people that were opposed to it. He knows who's against it. No one's ever come out and never received anything in the mail or anything like that, wondering why you're against it, why, what kind of changes can be made. But at the end of the day, even to begin with, probably should have come to the street and asking, hey, we're looking to open up, quote unquote, a business or a group home. What do you think about it? So highly against it. And I'm sure if you actually came around and spoke to the neighborhood, they're all going to be against it as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Icbl, I'm going to go back to you and I'm going to unmute your microphone. So hopefully you resolved your audio issues. Icbl, can you please go ahead? Your microphone is on. Icbl? Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm going to move on to the next delegate. It's Narendra Sharma.
Sorry, Mr. Clerk. I can see there's two Mr. Ahluwalias and both of their mics are mute when you ask them to speak. If somehow, I don't know if you have the access to unmute their mic or they can unmute only by themselves.
So, Mr. Chair, they're in the meeting as panelists, so they have control over their microphone. I'll try one more time for Icbl.
Yeah, just try one more time and then we move on to the next person.
Certainly. So, Icbl, can you please proceed if your audio issues are resolved? Icbl Ahluwalia, can you please proceed? So, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, please go ahead to the next person in line, and maybe Mr. Icbl Ahluwalia can come back after some other members of the public.
Thank you. So the next speaker is Narendra Sharma. Narendra, I'm going to unmute your microphone. You can please proceed. Narendra?
Oh, hello?
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah.
If you can please speak loud into your microphone. It's very weak.
Can you hear me?
A little louder, please.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead, Narendra. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Mr. Sharma, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for getting me in for this application. I am a resident on this street, and I have never got any letter from the city regarding this thing. The only thing which I came to know was one of our neighbors. They came and asked about this application, and I object to this because there is going to be a lot of traffic, because when there is a commercial thing, the people come and go. Like if, let's say, there are 6 people, there are not going to be 6 people. There are going to be families of 6 people plus the 6 people living there. The movie, whichever is shown to us, that is just to attract the people. But if you are living in that area and beside that thing, you are going to get too much traffic. And I don't understand why this thing is being not set to told us before. And also, you know, this neighborhood is a single family homes, and the price of this thing is going to be very, very low the moment this thing comes on the street. There is going to be too much traffic. The gentleman, Mr. Karma, is showing us that movie. I understand that thing, but he is not showing us who are the actual people coming over there. So this is just a gimmick to show to get this thing approved. So I object to this, and there are 100% of the people on the street don't want this thing because of just too much traffic and all these things. So thank you very much, and I hope you people take a nice decision about this thing, keeping in mind all the neighborhood. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks, Mr. Chatra.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. The next speaker I have and the last speaker, and then I'll go back to Icbl Ahluwalia, is Baljinder Gill. Baljinder, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair and the committee members.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm a resident of Newbury Crescent. I just saw a video from Mr. Merker just present. Now, I don't know why he tried to do that, but we think whatever we present on video is totally different what actually happened in life. And just during this COVID-19, we know what happened to our senior residents while they were in homes, right? That's the first time I'm speaking. That's why I'm a little nervous. I didn't speak on the phone before. Sorry about that.
Don't worry, you're not in person. You're still on the electronic way, so don't be nervous.
Okay, because during pandemic, right, we know what happened all our senior residents while they were living in the houses, but they were actually, if you see in a video, they show us that they're living in luxury life, all that stuff, but it's totally in real life. Second one, we have a petition going on the street for almost like 99% people sign on except one home, because they were working for Keri houses, I believe. He didn't sign it. Everyone else did. And third thing, I have it here, the sign on the street when they put on like an original first day. Now this time before that, they just took it down within like 2 hours, 2-3 hours. I live across the street, I didn't even see it. If they had nothing to hide, why they were taking down the sign in the first place. Second thing, I just got a letter like 2 days ago. Lots of neighbors don't even know about it. We speak to them and they told us, well, we never received that letter. So that's why they didn't participate in this meeting today. Otherwise, you know, when we were there last time, we had like 40 of us. Every single house on the street, they're opposing this right now. Third one, I have backyard belong to this house. They're sharing their backyard to the like 8 different houses. I don't know how they're going to impact to those. It's a big backyard and they're on the corner house and they're sharing with every single one behind their back. And for parking space, of course, it's going to be a big problem with the parking. And last one, I have a like crime-wise he already mentioned, because I know some service houses, they're getting numerous calls to the police during what's going on, like someone else came and meet the client and no parking. They always fight around. In our neighborhood, it's a very quiet neighborhood, and we love our neighborhood, but we don't want anything like that on our street. So that's what I have to say, nothing else. So I'm just requesting a committee and City Hall, please refuse us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll go back to Icbl. Icbl, if I'm going to turn your microphone on, and we'll give one last chance. Please proceed. Your microphone is on.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
So, Mr. Chair, there doesn't, Icbl seems to be in the meeting, but there doesn't seem to be a connection that's viable. So his presence will be noted. But that's it for the delegations on this item.
Okay. Just
Mr. Chair, do I get an opportunity to respond to those comments, or shall we wait till after the planning staff?
Is this Mr. Kramer, right?
Correct,
yep.
yes, sir.
You can, if you wishes to add something, you're more than welcome. That's not a problem.
Thank you so much. Just briefly, this neighborhood, if the house is approved, this neighborhood will be as quiet as it is presently. The individuals living at that house will not have cars. Their support workers will have cars potentially, but there is sufficient parking on site. There is not going to be a noticeable increase in traffic. If that was truly an objective concern, planning staff would have raised that and addressed it in the report. There will be no noticeable increase in traffic, and there is sufficient parking on site for any support worker. And in terms of what Mr. Gill had thought, that there were going to be families living here, it will be 6 individuals, and their support workers will come in, but they won't be living there. So again, this will be akin to a single family living in a single family house. The same impacts will result. In terms of Americ's comments, of course, there's a process which is called a minor variance process, which allows you to get a variance from a bylaw, including interim control bylaws. And in terms of consultation, the committee, I think, is aware that during the meeting on March 3rd, at my request, we met with the neighbors to discuss the application and what it would mean. We met with the neighbors during the committee meeting and after the committee meeting, again, to say, this is what is proposed. I handed out my card, Ferguson handed out her card, and we said, please contact us if you have any questions or concerns. We are happy to address them. We heard nothing back from the community, and the community made it, the residents who are talking today, made it clear at that meeting on March 3rd that they were so opposed to the application that nothing would persuade them otherwise. But I wanted to stress that we have told the community we are here and open to speak about the application. But again, this application will not result in the impacts feared. And that's why we put that video before you, to assure the neighborhood that this is a single family house that is going to be operated, not as a business, but as a single family house. Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I can just ask a quick question. It's obviously that the community at large, and quite a number of members, whether they've signed a document or whether they've spoken here today or sent letters, are vehemently opposed to this. Why would Keri's Place insist on still going into a community that they're not welcomed in?
Can I answer that question? I think what you find is before you have a group home, and I think it's probably the nature of group homes, you have things like what Mr. Gill talked about as rumors that there's going to be crime, rumors that there's going to be bad drainage, rumors that there's going to be bad traffic. Keri's Place has experienced opposition in other places too. And what they have unanimously found in terms of where there has been opposition, that once the home is established, that you find the neighborhood actually welcomes it. And in fact, a number of residents in other areas who were originally concerned with or opposed to a supportive housing facilities actually now volunteer at Keri's Place because they see that the homes are operated as single family homes or apartments and that they integrate well into the community. Keri's Place, as you may know from my previous correspondence and our appearance at the March meeting, purchased this house last year. I believe it was in September. They filed the application. There were no concerns they knew of because, again, based on the extensive experience of Keri's Place, situating a house like this in a residential neighborhood has no impacts and is come to be recognized and welcomed by those communities. So this house will not impact the neighborhood, and it will offer incredibly important supportive housing for individuals who need it and individuals who will not impact adversely the community. Unfortunately, as you know, this house, as other supportive housing facilities, was caught by a concern in a different area over a proposed seniors home. And Keri's Place purchased the home. They've been paying a mortgage on it. They've been maintaining it during this period of time, and they recognize it as appropriate for their client population and recognize that once established, the community will come to understand that it is not the threat they're concerned about, and in fact, it's something to be welcomed into the community to make it a community everyone wants on that street. So we understand there are concerns. I think those concerns may be natural, but once the home is established, if approved, I think the neighborhood will find that in fact it is a home to be welcomed as part of that community.
So why wouldn't you, instead of having a video and what have you, why wouldn't you have community members from other communities that have accepted this type of residence speak on your behalf, as opposed to a letter that was sent by a councillor of the City of Toronto?
Well, I mean, there are a number of people who've spoken on this, both for and against. That's one thing. We thought that the video, again, would be appropriate because it shows you the type of client population for these homes. And I think the committee has to be aware, of course, that this is not a popularity contest. It's not a, us versus them. This is a planning body established to consider whether the variances sought meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And what the planning evidence before the committee today is that the professional opinion of the city's planning department is that the variances are appropriate and should be approved. As I mentioned, we also have Ms. Ferguson and Mr. Morris here, if the committee has any questions about the operation. But the purpose of the video was simply to show that this is a client population which will not adversely impact the neighborhood. To assure residents is that their fears are, in our view, unfounded. They may be naturally held, we don't doubt that, but that they are going to be able to welcome this home into the neighborhood. I mean, we could have many people speak, but of course, as you know as well, the committee only has so much time. So we didn't want to burden the committee with, too many people, but we thought the video would do that trick in terms of just showing you what the client population is here. And again, Mr. Morris and Ms. Ferguson are here to answer any questions you have about the operation, including its impact on other communities.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, it's Peter. I just wish to advise that Mr. Gill has requested to address the committee again, so I'm bringing it to your attention for if you wish to hear.
Go ahead, Mr. Gill.
Go ahead, Mr. Gill.
Hi, Chair. Thanks for unmuting me. Mr. Cameron just says he went to neighborhood and talked to everybody regarding whenever they're opening Keri services. I live right beside the house. He never came up to me. I don't know why he's saying that. I live to next house. He was saying it's going to be very quiet. Another thing he was saying, it's going to be single dwelling. It's going to be like single home family. But on the street, there's one house. There are like 3 individuals living there. But they're international student. It's just addressing the issue, whatever he's trying to say, what I'm saying right now. And on the street, they have like 6, 7 cars all the time on the street. And numerous complain to the city hall if you can take a look regarding that issue. So if this thing came in our community, in our neighborhood, it's going to be more problem for us right now. And right now, those guys getting kicked out from a house, they're leaving by end of this month. So that's what I'm trying to say. They're trying to, like, basically it's traffic, everything's all together. It's not like only whatever he's saying, like it's going to be they're going to do this, there won't be any crime. There's no one can guarantee for anything. But I don't know why he's saying it's going to be very quiet, everything will be fine. But the worry, right now, what I'm trying to say is, like, he never came to my house regarding I'm living right beside the house, like whatever they're trying to do next. Anybody from the committee, from their Keri houses, nobody came to my house. I just find out a letter when I got a very first one in, I think, February or March, like we having this issue right now. And the sign, they were taking them right away. I have cameras outside my house, I can see it. They took it, the sign within like 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't know why they're trying to hide from the community, from the neighborhood. That's all, Chair. and the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Back to the agent. The sign conversation came 2 times. Why the sign was removed? And just to hide from the community as these questions have come in. And again, you're more than welcome to answer this, but we see that often because during our time with many applications on the committee. Please go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. I think we addressed this at the last committee meeting that, we put up the sign, and in fact, Mr. Morris went most recently and did that again. We weren't aware of the sign being taken down. Certainly, there's nothing to hide from the community. We placed up the sign in accordance with the committee's directions, and Ms. Myers can confirm we picked it up both times. But we weren't aware the sign was removed. It was when I think we produced for you
Mr. Tremor, you're cutting off a bit. We're having a hard time understanding you.
Marsh, and are represented here again. So we haven't been. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Before you said the sentence, we could not really hear 100%. I was not sure if only me, but then I can see everyone else is moving, and you're having some trouble on the video, and the audio. Your microphone is mute right now, so maybe you can refix your connection. If it's not, meantime, I'll just do some procedural work. And your microphone is mute, Mr. Kramer, right now. But what I would like to do is, I have some correspondence, which I'd like to bring on record. Meantime,
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but give me a second. Meantime, maybe it's just the connection time. So I'll just like to bring some correspondence for the record. We have a letter stating their concerns and in opposition from Jim and Brenda Jarvis, and indicating that there's a bylaw and the city should honor its own bylaw, which is the interim control bylaw. Basically, the next letter we have is from Mr. Amrik Aluwalia. And sorry, please be with me. I like to include each and every letter. So I'm taking some help from another electronic device. Then we have a full petition signed from many addresses on. This is already included in the agenda on city's website. So if anyone has any question, they can certainly go into the section in the attachments, and this is already showing there. Many houses on Newbury Crescent, I can see here. It will be too long if I start reading everyone's address, but 34 on one page. And then altogether, this is 61 from all the same street, mainly on Newbury, and some neighboring streets. Actually, it's all Newbury. It's about 61 total petition signature we have. Then we have a letter from. Mr. Morris. Then we have a letter from Councillor Paul Ansell from Toronto City Council, but that's in January 2017. I'm not sure if this is regarding this application or it's just in general letter. And then we have a letter from Steve Simkus. My apologies if I'm not pronouncing properly. Asking city to resolve as quickly as possible regarding Icbl, putting pressure on community members who are trying to provide housing options. That's what, and then there is a letter dated June 25th, 2020, to Brampton City Council, which is also included by the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services Central Region. Then we have a letter from Diane Gaggy, also stating their concerns regarding ICBL, and they want City to resolve this quickly as possible. Then we have a letter from Sandra Campbell. She is writing down on behalf of Ms. Campbell's son, Daniel, and who is trying to find a place in the city of Brampton. Then we have a letter from Glenn and Mona Bullock. They are sending their concerns about today's hearing, and they have some concerns that Mr. Kramer mentioned that maybe in the previous meeting they're referring to, that the home would be home for the 6 adults with autism, and there would be 4 support staff in attendance during the day. There was no mention of support staff during the evening hours. Will there be support staff to assist residents during the night as well? So Mr. Kramer, please hold on this thought, but please note this question. I'll come back to you, but I want to finish with all the letters. Another letter we have Kay Johnson from 19 Newbury Crescent, stating their concerns regarding today's application. And then I have, please be with me, I need to go to another device. There are some other additional correspondence we received. I would like to add every letter for the record. The next one, yes, is I already talked about 19 Newbury. There you go. There's another one we already mentioned by Glenn and Mona. And here's the petition again. Just quick, one more minute. Okay, so I guess I completed each and every letter we received, I put on record, but even if I miss anyone's correspondence, I would like to assure each and every neighbor that we have gone through our agenda. The public has gone through the agenda. Each and every letter which has been submitted to the city in timely manner has been added into agenda, and that's also on the display on city site. And some of the letters we received after. There's another letter by our staff sent out, not staff, the clerk's office sent out to us about if someone still prefer to go ahead with, if someone is not capable to join today's meeting by this electronic measures and they still like to proceed in-person meeting. So we'll talk about that, but I will like to go back to Mr. Kramer, as one of the comment was the 6 adults plus the supporting staff. And what about the evening hours? What is that going to, or what is your say on that? And then I'll like to go to staff one more time, hear them out. And meantime, if committee members, you have any question, comment, concern, please more than welcome to raise your hand or just simply unmute your mic and just show your wish that you wishes to speak, and then we'll follow the procedure accordingly. Back to the applicant, the agent.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, did you I'm not sure when my microphone went on mute and I was having problems unmuting it. Did you hear all my comments with respect to the sign, or should I go back to that?
You can quickly address the signage issue as well, and then about the supporting staff.
Thank you very much. So what I had said about the sign was, this was raised at the last committee meeting in March. Mr. Morris made sure that the signs were posted, and Ms. Myers can attest that he picked them up from the committee. I'm not sure if they were taken down. If they surely weren't taken down by Keri's Place staff, because Keri's Place staff have nothing to hide with respect to this application. When Mr. Gill asked about me meeting with him, my comments were not that I went to the neighborhood to meet with residents, but that at the committee meeting, I certainly met during and after the committee meeting with residents to go over the application. But the sign we had produced for you at the last committee meeting, photographic evidence from Ms. Ferguson that the sign in fact was up prior to the committee meeting. And certainly neighbors were aware of the committee meeting and came out in March, and they're certainly out today. So the signs were put up in accordance with the statutory requirements and the committee requirements. And it was not Keri's Place who took down any sign. In fact, Keri's Place checked and made sure the sign was up. There's nothing to hide at all. We've been very transparent about this application. In terms of the question about, I just also want to say, this is not a frat house for students. This is a supervised house where people with autism who also have needs to live in housing, just as every resident on the street does, have a place to live. They're supervised, and the houses are uniformly operated by Keri's Place, operated in a quiet and professional manner. This is not a frat house, and it's not fair to compare it to that. I mean, I understand, again, there's a lot of misapprehension, but this is an operation which is respectful of the neighborhood. And as I mentioned before, with respect to support staff coming on site, certainly during, they do come in during the day, and I'll ask Ms. Ferguson to talk to the issue of when support staff come and go. But this is not where people are coming and going all the time. If they come, they're coming for shifts, and there is sufficient parking on site for support staff. So there is nothing before the committee to indicate that traffic and parking will be an issue. But I would ask Ms. Ferguson to address that issue of the role of support staff on site. And certainly I can come back and address any other comments or concerns the committee may have.
So, Mr. Mark, is Jackie Ferguson has not connected to this meeting, so is she on the line with you?
Michael Morris may be able to address that.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Mr. Chair, so the short answer about staffing is yes, there will be overnight staff present at this house. And the reason being, you mentioned that one of the letters was submitted by the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services. The reason they submitted that letter, and the reason I bring it up now, is because the types of people that come forward and we develop this type of property for are the most vulnerable types of persons that that might need support for throughout the day. So that's why that letter was submitted, and throughout the day support, 24-hour support, does mean that there would be somebody present through the night hours at this location.
But again, it would not be, it's not like there is a plethora of people there during the night to support. There's a person who's there in case the residents have any needs. And there may be some people so there's some support workers during the day, but it isn't anything that is going to overwhelm the street. It's going to be a very small number of people on site to support. And again, their parking is accommodated on site.
I would advise to the applicant and the agent, once they're not speaking, if Mr. Morris, if you can please mute your microphone. Yeah, thank you. That helps. I would like to go to...
Sorry, sir, did you hear my comments? I didn't mean to speak over Mr. Morris.
No, yeah, I did hear. Otherwise, I would ask you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I would like to go to staff one time and ask their opinion. The council put Icbl in late last year, and this application was in front of us, I believe, beginning of the year. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Then there was some the Icbl imposed by the council and they were seeking some study over it. As that study has been done, what are the outcome? And if not, then this application is in front of us before that study has been completed. If staff can comment on that, and committee members, once staff comments, if you have any comment or question, more than welcome to raise your hand or simply unmute your mic and just wish you an indication that you would like to ask something. Please, Rex. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Carmen Crusoe, Development Services Manager. So we're the Icbl is currently in place. That is absolutely correct. And the policy staff, and I do have a policy staff member here to assist in any details with respect to the study. But my understanding at this stage is that the study is is ongoing. But it has not been presented to council at this stage. I believe there's an intention to bring a bylaw to deal with group homes and supportive housing to a public meeting on September 14th.
Okay, Mr. Russo, would you like to wish any other indication about the staff? What's staff's position on it?
At this stage, we are requesting deferral until the matter has been at least considered by council, so that we are able to understand their position on this matter.
And any timeline you would, is that something indefinite, Mr. Russo, you would suggest? Or?
The preference would be after September 14th, when the public meeting takes place. So that would be my recommendation, anytime after September 14th.
Okay. So September 14th, as previously we have gone through the dates. There's one hearing on end of September, which may not be enough because of the situation with the filing and any new information or the filing deadlines. There's one on October 20th, I believe, and to file any new information for that hearing is somewhere September 22nd or 23rd. So I guess maybe November hearing, and again to everybody here, I'm not saying that this is committee's decision. I'm just checking the dates, the available dates, if that is the wish of the committee. So
through you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Sorry. It looks like this is Mr. Power. Oh yeah, Mr. Power, go ahead.
I would suggest that follow Mr. Caruso's remarks. And have this deferred to October the 20th meeting, just because it seems like there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of back and forth where community residents don't believe they've been given enough notice or haven't been given notice. There may be people within the community. I mean, 62 signatures is a lot of signatures of opposal. And there may be people in the community that couldn't participate today, either electronically or by phone, given that maybe they're elderly or what have you, maybe not have the accommodations to be able to do so. So I would tend or lead to suggest that maybe defer this matter till after City Council votes to the October 20th meeting, and see if we can come to a better resolution for this. It just seems like there's too many people within the community that are deeply opposed, and you know, I really feel for Keri's place and what they're trying to do. I just, you know, the community at large, it has to be some cohesion between the two groups in order for it to work. Otherwise, this is going to be a nightmare even after the fact. So I move to motion the deferral in support of Mr. Caruso.
Okay. Any other committee members or Mr. Kramer would like to add something into it? Any other committee member wishes to speak on this matter?
Through you,
Mr. Cope?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, as well. I concur with Mr. Power, the fact that it's a bone of contention. It's something that I foresee continuing even if this did go through today. I'd rather see some sort of common ground after council goes through their meetings, and I believe that's in September. Regardless of when it is, I believe that this should be deferred till a much later date, till the fact that the council goes through their motions, and then that way the community has a better understanding as to what Keri's Place is all about, and they laid it out. And again, concurring with Mr. Power, I feel for them as well. They do, from my understanding, do outstanding work, and we're certainly not opposed to that. But I think it's our obligation as committee members to take also into consideration the members of our community and obviously the community itself and what they feel is in their best interest. So I think we've got to look at all ends of this, and I think it's going to be in the best interest of everyone to defer this. So I'd have to agree with Mr. Power on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please go ahead, Ms. Duffler.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I have a comment and then I have a question for both the applicant and staff. My comment is that I recognize that this type of situation always garners resistance from the community. And I have some experience with this over many years. So it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. And I commend Keri's Place for needing to address this on a consistent basis. So my question to staff is one about the Icbl. I know that based on the staff report, that if the Icbl were not in place, no special permission would be needed to establish a group home type 1 on this property. So I guess my question around this is timing. We've heard that there's a September public meeting, and I'm wondering what else needs to transpire after September. So that's my question to staff. My question to the applicant is, I was hoping they could take us just fairly succinctly through a typical day in the life of a Keri's Place home so that people have an understanding of the realities. I think there's some concern that what's being presented is not going to be a reality. So giving a bit of a better understanding probably be helpful. So I wondered if maybe staff could respond first and then the applicant to my questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So the intention is for staff to bring forward a proposed bylaw for a public meeting as a result of the outcome to implement the study that is being undertaken. But that does have to be vetted through council. So there will be a public meeting on September 14th on this matter, or that's the schedule. And later, there will be a recommendation report with it's expected that a bylaw will be attached that will implement the findings of the study and will likely implement the will of council.
Thank you.
And that'll be sometime either October, likely November.
Through the chair, my name is Marla Palermo. I'm a policy planner with the city. I would just like to respond to a couple of the questions, if I may.
Sure.
Can you hear me clear? Okay, so I just want to clarify that the Icbl that's in place will be expiring as of August the 24th of this year. The province has lifted any freezes on the timelines related to planning matters, so I did consult with our legal department and clerks, and August 24th is the date. So as this application comes through, once the ICBL is lifted, if it's no longer extended, then this use is a permitted use through the zoning. Group home type 1 is permitted. And as my role, I do process group home applications. And so as long as they satisfy the zoning provisions, which it does, there's only one requirement that has to be fulfilled. It is the open house, which we normally conduct, where the neighbors are notified and they have the opportunity to visit the home and consult with Keri's Place and any other individuals to address their concerns. So that has not been addressed as of yet. But once the ICBL is lifted, the registration process would continue. So technically, they would not have to wait till the September 14th, statutory public meeting, because like I said, they do satisfy the current requirements as it stands with the group home registration process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other question, comment?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to build on the comments from policy staff. I just want to have the committee understand that there is a potential that the ICBL can be extended, but we're not unaware if that will happen on August 24th.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just if I could then ask the applicant to succinctly walk us through a typical day, maybe not in an expanded version, but just something to present to committee and the residents, a typical day at Keri's Place.
Yeah, so this is Mike Morris, Mr. Chair again. I think I'm the best suited to answer that question. All of our homes are for adults with a developmental disability, specifically autism. That's specialized with at Keri's Place. Several of the individuals that we're planning for this home for are actually wards of the state, so they have no relationship with their families. So their adult life is really pursuing whatever typical activity of daily living that any resident might pursue that they choose. So typically they might require some support with personal hygiene, with those activities of daily living like cooking, cleaning the house and all that. And then as you may remember from the video, they would then engage in community involvement activities like sports, employment, and the like, with support typically, and that's the standard day. So someone who is over 18 requires some support for the activities of daily living, and then they go about their life and participate in the community. Yeah, and we're very eager to answer any questions that might come from this community, as well as all the communities across Brampton, because we do operate other group homes in Brampton with no complaint, individuals living this lifestyle that we're supporting. If you have any other questions too, I'm happy to answer.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Morris. On a personal note, I want to thank obviously you and the Keri's Place for working with the staff and addressing all the concerns and more so engaging in the process of the process. We are all involved, including whether that's Keri's Place. And I really want to mention the great work they're doing and helping and assisting the people with special needs. That I really, on a personal note and as a chair of this committee, I would like to acknowledge that part. Thank you for doing that. And back to what the conversation we were doing. Ms. Stoffler, is there anything else you wishes to ask? Any other committee members, as we already go through the conversation back and forth? I noted the couple of committee members indicated Mr. Power and Mr. Cope They have indicated some of their wishes towards the deferral of this application, as staff has indicated as well. So maybe that will give some time to work within all the parties, but I do acknowledge at the same time where the applicant having a different opinion. But this current ICBL we have in place, and would like to have, the committee members like to have the outcome here, the outcome of this ICBL. I can see the hands of Mr. Power. Would you like to ask some questions, or Mr. Power, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. I think this is something that we should look to defer and give the opportunity to Keri's Place to actually work within the community that they're seeking to go into. Maybe have those discussions. I'm not here to say whether discussions were had or whether notices went out or whether the sign was up or it came down. I don't want to go into the debate of who did what and who didn't. I think for Keri's Place, the onus is on them to actually make the time to go through the community and help the community to understand of what's coming through, or what you guys intend to put into the home at Newbury Crescent. So I would suggest that we defer. I know we had talked about October 20th, but maybe even to November, depending on the deadlines that are set ahead for the next session in October. But I really urge Keri's Place to work with the community that they want to go into, that's very opposed to this type of home coming in, and maybe the resolution will be there for you.
Thank you, Mr. Power. I will go back to the committee members just for the deadlines of the submissions of any new information, since there are two suggestions, whether that's the October date or November date. I just want to have the committee members' full information in front of them. Ms. Myers, if you can please look into it. I know the October 20 hearing, there is any information for the new filing, any new filing information deadline is September 22nd or so. And if that is enough for all the parties, for the staff, because once the council is making the decision, or this ICBL is ending, or we are finding the outcome of the study. If all those things are in line, I'm okay with October 20th, as Mr. Power indicated. If not, not that I personally want to delay any further hearing, but just for the sake of everyone, get the proper time and get the information. We just don't want to come back here at the last minute that this part is missing and then we go for another hearing. So just on that note, I would just like to ask Ms. Myers, and if staff wants to make a comment or anything, if whatever the committee members are thinking, if that is something they're okay with, I'd like to hear them out. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, it's Elizabeth Corzola. I just wanted to make one comment, and I'm sorry I haven't spoken up yet today at today's meeting.
I know. That's very rare, Ms. Corzola, that we are conducting the meeting without your participation.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity now. Excuse me. I just wanted to note that, as Marla had explained, if the interim control bylaw does lapse in August as anticipated, then this variance application may not be necessary. If, however, the variance or the interim control rather is extended by council and remains in place through the fall of this year, then no change that would require any resubmission of any documentation to this application to support it moving forward. It would really be a matter of providing adequate notice And by adequate notice, I mean in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, which is what's been done so far. So really, we're not looking at an issue where we've got a filing deadline and a resubmission of a number of changes to the application that may be required as a result of this delay. So just for your consideration, you know, as I understand from Mr. Caruso, they'll be going to public meeting in September. That would mean that the bylaw could not be brought forward to council for at least 30 days following that meeting. So that would, as they've concluded, take you into the end of October or into November for a meeting of council to come to a conclusion or a decision on any eventual amendment to the zoning bylaw that may or may not impact this facility.
So maybe many members, just for the consideration, maybe we can just put together a date and we can simply add into on or before that specific date. Ms. Marcus, are you like to add something? Or maybe I saw your hand, or maybe I just made a mistake.
Through you, Chair. No, I did not. You did not see my hand.
Okay.
But I am quiet because I agree with everything that my colleagues have said, and I fully concur with the fact that you know, I am very supportive of Keri's place, but on the other hand, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that there's neighbors that have concerns, and I think we need to hear them. Therefore, if we just adjourn this for until late October or early November, maybe we will have an opportunity to have some public meetings for Keri Place, to have maybe some public meetings in the neighborhood, and I actually explain what's going to be happening there.
Thank you. Ms. Marcus?
Mr. Chair, Mike Morris, I'd just like to address the public consultation. As staff indicated earlier, step in the process for the group home type 1 application would be public consultation in the form of an open house. So we were ready to participate in all of that process when we started this whole application process before the Icbl was put into effect, and we are eager to proceed, if only for these variance requests today, if they were lifted. So I'd like to submit that also. And staff can confirm. I believe Marla mentioned earlier.
Thank you. Any other, anybody else wishes to speak on this matter? Any question, comment, concern by anybody? If not, looking for a motion to proceed over this, committee members. The date we have, I guess, whether, and I just want to confirm one last time, because I did request Ms. Myers to just, we know that there's a hearing on October 20th. Do we have any hearing in November? Like, I know we do, maybe 2, if not 1. We just know, can we just have the date for the November hearing?
Through the chair, I can confirm that there is only one hearing date in November, which is scheduled for November the 10th.
Okay, committee members, we have 2 hearings, one in October. Of course, the applicant wants to proceed earlier. So if committee feels October 20th or even September 29th, hearing would make sense, but the September, they're having those, community consultations, I believe. And then we have October 20th. I'll come to you, Mr. Kramer. And then November 10th is, as Ms. Corzola mentioned, that the 30 days period required as well after on that specific meeting. Mr. Kramer, please go ahead.
I think I have two questions actually for the committee in terms of its consideration, because I've been dismayed, to hear that my client is going to be deferred once again. We waited in March. We were sure this would be the date when it was decided. I understand COVID was in the interim, but my concerns in hearing the committee discussion are twofold. One is, as Mr. Morris said, Keri's Place is more than happy to consult with the community, and I'll talk to my client further about that. My concern is that in terms of the community opposition, it has to date been implacable. And I think this community has shown, rightly or wrongly, that it is opposed to any supportive housing facility. My concern in that respect is we come back in October, and notwithstanding the outstanding work Keri's Place does, the community remains implacably opposed, and we're in the same position. My other concern is that, my client is placed in a bit of a catch-22 situation. So right now you have before you the planning report that talks about what the conclusions of the study so far are, WSP study. In March, we already had some of those conclusions. So if it goes before in September to a public hearing, and it says WSP confirms what those conclusions are, that supportive housing should be allowed. But council hasn't taken a decision on that study. I mean, where does that put us if even in November, council hasn't taken a position on that? And it has, in the meantime, extended the interim control bylaw. It seems my client is put into a catch-22 situation, because whatever the community does or whatever council does or does not do, we could be in the same situation in October or November, where there's perhaps another request for deferral, or then the committee says, well, council's rejected, for example, the study's conclusions, and so you should reject the Keri's Place application, notwithstanding the outstanding work it continues to do. So I think we need some direction from the committee in terms of what is it looking at for us to come back with. We can consult with the community, of course, and there's going to be a process with respect to the supportive housing study, but I don't want to come to committee for a third time and find that the same opposition exists as a concern for committee, and that there's still a comment we don't know what we're dealing with in terms of what council has or has not done with the interim control bylaw. My client could be in exactly the same position. Well, in the interim, its residents who need housing remain in supportive housing. So I think we need some direction from the committee in terms of what are we coming back to? What does the committee need to make a decision on this application?
Mr. Kramer, you outlined a few good points, and you have indicated you have touched a few different sides of it. And I do agree with you on many notes, if not all. But at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, that this organization doing good work, much needed work, this community or any community needs. And I am in fully support of it. The work this organization or any of the organization is working, especially with the growing needs of children, helping and supporting the people with special needs. That is one thing as I said earlier, and I'm recommitting my personal support for that. At the same time, you have indicated that this community has shown in the past that they are not supportive, and if the future meeting may not change their position, as you just said in your remarks. When we are here as a committee, we hear the neighborhoods, we hear what the neighbor says. That's the process that this committee is listening to all parties' concerns, whether that's the staff, applicant, or the concerned neighbors, or if committee members feel different. To me personally and the committee members, whenever we change the characteristic of a settled neighborhood and especially the neighbors, feel that. That is one of the major concerns we do have. And whether, I know you clearly said, I'm not saying that why you're saying that the neighbors are not changing their position, or so far they have indicated. I agree with you, but if I look at sitting here and if I look towards what the neighbors are worried about, the concerns, they have some genuine concerns. They are concerned about where they live, being next door neighbor or another side. Maybe some of these concerns could be addressed in those outcome when the study is done, or part of that discussions. I don't want to say now that how the neighbors would feel by the next hearing if there are some efforts to be made and ease some concerns, as many of the residents, they signed the petition and the letters which see. And as you mentioned, if let's say the council is extending this Icbl by the time we go to the next hearing, what will be the outcome of this committee? You know, I can't speak even for myself, even the rest of the committee. I don't think so they are in position to speak that how, which direction they will be going in about 2-3 months from now. But one thing I can say that once one cycle is complete, the study is there. Of course, when this committee look into, and if council is elected officials by the city of Brampton, when they are making some Icbl or there are bylaws, we do see the scope within that bylaw and in a broader range, whatever the criteria we have to look for the applications within the criteria for Committee of Adjustments, all those 4 tests and stuff. But that is one of the components this committee for sure look into it. So at least what will give us by the next committee hearing, the staff will have some more information. This committee will have some more information that what are those dialogues, what are those discussions, and what the council is speaking in terms of this Icbl, whether this has been is going to be extended or it's going to end as it got implemented by the late last year by the council. So again, you have said all those things. I'm not saying that I'm not agreeing into it. I'm not saying the need is not there, but somehow the information from all parties does matter to me and to this committee. And the neighbors, they might have very soft approach by the time we go to the next committee. They might have even tougher stance than they are showing now. We respect their views. And I personally, understand the mature and the settled neighborhood where people are living for many, many years. That is one of the criteria we look, but when we make any decision and you are an expert representing your clients, it's not that all the time we tend to, even though we agree with staff's opinion, but that doesn't mean that we go the way staff that want us to go in this scenario. If we hear you, even though you're putting together all the perspectives, but this is under the Act. This committee has that. I don't want to use the word power, but that this committee can go beyond these bylaws because we come from a different perspective. The Committee of Adjustment members throughout in the municipalities. Again, to just summarize whatever I have said so far. I personally hear you and I can understand your concerns, but at the same time, I tend to agree with staff and our members of the committee who have expressed their concerns regarding the deferral of this application to sometime in October. I would like to hear them again, whether October 20th is the day they are looking to. And I would like to go that way. Committee members, just one time, if I'm not wrong, the motion has been put forward by Mr. Power and seconded by Mr. Cope. If no further discussion or no further comments by anybody, just one time I would like to hear what's the hearing date these two members are suggesting.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just given the timing of the council's meeting, I believe they need 30 days after such. Maybe the October meeting might not be viable. So I would say possibly defer it no later than November meeting, and just leave it at those words with no later than. So the opportunity to come back in the October one would be sufficient.
So you're saying if it's work, let's say all parties have what they want, or the applicant wishes to come forward by working with the staff on anything before November 10th, such as October 20th, they can come. So, but you would like to put forward the motion to defer this application no later than November the 10th. Am I correct, Mr. Power?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and seconder, we have Mr. Pope. Mr. Pope, are you seconding this motion? I take it as a yes by your
sorry about that, Chair. I am seconding that motion, yes.
Okay, no problem. I figured it out. If committee members, we have motion on the floor to defer this meeting no later than November the 10th. No further comment by committee members.
Yes. Mr. Chair, just a quick comment, if I might. Just in response to Keri's place, please know that I'm fully supportive of what you do. And were it not for a technical issue at the moment, and obviously overwhelming residents' concerns, I think this might play out a little bit differently. In terms of residents' concerns, I agree with the other committee members. Reaching out to the community would be, I think, a best way forward. But very specifically, I would look to answer the questions that seem to have come up by every piece of correspondence and every resident that's spoken, and that is parking and traffic. If there are not going to be any issues in terms of parking and traffic, if there might be some sort of a study offered up or a rationale as to how things are working in other locations, I think that would help us to understand the true nature of whether there would or would not be issues in terms of those. So, sorry, I just wanted to add that so that Keri's place understands. I think many other members have said they're supportive of what you do. Just want to make sure that you're aware. I am as well. And what you do is exemplary, much needed, and hopefully the residents will learn to embrace your facility. But again, two very practical aspects, parking and traffic, if those can be identified, and at least attempting to reach out to the community would be fantastic. And then we have the technical matter that will be before us that'll work the way that it will work out. Then I think we have the information to move forward to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duffler. We have a motion by Mr. Power, seconded by Mr. Cole. I would like to ask to all committee members, everyone in favor of this motion? Anyone opposed? Seeing, hearing none, carrying unanimously. So this application has been deferred to no later than November the 10th. I would like to thank, on behalf of this committee, to applicant, the representative for bringing this application in front of us and sharing their side. I would like to thank all the concerned neighbors, all parties who wrote us their letters, taking the time and writing down their concerns, whether the family members of whether the family members whose family members are living or going to live in Keri's place. I want to thank them, and I want to thank all the concerned neighbors for writing down to us, taking the time and taking the time coming on the call, into the meeting by electronically, and to all those neighbors who came forward, but they did not find the methods to join us electronically. We hear you loud and concerns, and your letters are there. We have noted all your concerns. So thank you very much, everyone, for this application. Back to Ms. Myers. Ms. Myers, we don't have any other agenda items, I believe. This was the last item on the agenda.
Through the chair, I can confirm that there is no other business at this point.
Okay, at the end, I would like to thank Ms. Myers, the staff, Mr. Fay, City Clerk. Mr. Fay, you're doing a wonderful job by putting these meetings and the council meetings together. And to all the city staff, planning, zoning, and any other department, the tech team were working hard to putting this meetings together, and so we can process these ongoing applications, which were hold for some time. Thank you very much, everyone, for today's meeting, and we'll see everyone at the next meeting. Looking for a motion to adjourn by Mr. Power. I can see the seconded by Mr. Cope. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
You too.
So members of committee, this meeting